Reveals now is a site that fewer than 200 human
through
beings
this dedicated transfer system, engineered to eliminate any.
It represents a deliberate decision by Domino.
Is performing work at the molecular level, literally visible signs of yeast activity. Tiny gas.
The dough pieces emerging from the divider are not yet
is the final phase of the 48-hour cold fermentation process.
At this stage of the baking process, the yeast cells.
Before the first slice touches your lips, before the first order pings a Domino screen,
every single grain of flour that enters this Domino's facility undergoes a verification process so rigorous, so uncompromising.
What happened in the next 43 seconds will determine whether this entire shipment continues forward into America's pizza future or whether it gets rejected outright.
14,000 pounds of Domino's proprietary flour blend now begin a vertical journey, rising 112 feet through polished stainless steel piping. While the main shipment continues its ascent to the silos, this representative sample undergoes 16 separate analytical tests next to Nixincors. Domino's engineers understand that stored flour is living inventory, and only through constant monitoring can
The Domino's silo management system operates on a first-in, first-out rotation schedule, enforced by automated valves
twice every single day, regardless of weather, regardless of production demands. Domino's certified silo technicians perform manual inspections. What the camera reveals now is a sight that fewer than 200 human beings have witnessed firsthand: the interior. And so the first chapter in the remarkable journey of Domino's pizza dough draws to a close. With 8 of theirs. If flour constitutes the body of Domino's legendary pizza dough, then water surely represents its soul in twinkles. The digital display stabilizes at 0.08 nephelometric turbidity units, well below the maximum. Each of these cylindrical vessels contains a spiral-wound polyamide membrane so finely porous that individual water molecules can pass through.
The water that emerges from the reverse osmosis system now measures less than 25 parts per million of total dissolved solids.
Domino's technicians maintain the living heart of our dough production system and the proprietary yeast culture that has been continuously propagated from a master strain. What appears to the naked eye as a simple beige slurry is in reality a thriving metropolis of Saccharomyces cerevisiae cells. The journey from frozen master culture to production-scale yeast slurry requires 72 hours of carefully managed growth. The completed yeast slurry flows through this dedicated transfer system, engineered to eliminate any pockets where yeast, salt from ancient seabeds in Utah, sugar refined from American-grown sugar beets, and a proprietary dough conditioner blend that Domino's food scientists developed, all converging toward this singular moment of truth, where these disparate elements will be united in the massive spiral mixers that dominate the production floor.
What you are witnessing is the precise moment of creation and the exact instant where all the preparation.
Exceptions. The addition of water first is not arbitrary, nor is it merely convenient. It represents a deliberate decision by Domino. 912 pounds of flour drawn from the very silo we witnessed being filled in Chapter 1 now enters the mixing bowl in a porridge. The addition of these minor ingredients, representing collectively less than 4% of the total dough mass, nevertheless, patience. What happens in the next 11 minutes represents perhaps the most critical phase in the entire Domino's dough production process.
The mechanical energy being applied by that rotating spiral arm is performing work at the molecular level, literally.
Multiply what you are witnessing in this single mixer by 8, and you begin to comprehend the staggering scale of Domino's dough production capacity. The temperature of Domino's dough at the conclusion of mixing must fall between 74 and 78 degrees Fahrenheit, no higher, no lower. After 11 minutes and 40 seconds of precisely controlled mechanical work, the transformation is complete. And so concludes the third chapter in the extraordinary journey of Domino's pizza dough, with the separate ingredients. The freshly mixed dough, now unified and developed, now containing within its elastic matrix all the potential of Domino's frigates. This room represents the first critical control point in the flavor development pathway for Domino's pizza dough.
What the camera now reveals are the first visible signs of yeast activity. Tiny gas bubbles just beginning to form. But the dough that entered this room 90 minutes ago has been fundamentally transformed by its residents in this carefully controlled environment.
The dough approaches the most mechanically precise phase of its journey, the division into individual dough balls, each quartered. The divider operates on a volumetric principle rather than simply weighing portions, because Domino's food scientists, the dough pieces emerging from the divider are not yet the smooth, uniform spheres that will eventually travel to Domino's stores.
The rounding process serves multiple critical functions. Simultaneously, it seals the cut surfaces created during
inches. Each dough ball emerging from the rounder weighs exactly 20.5 ounces. For a large Domino's hand-tossed pizza,
The 48-hour cold fermentation that will transform these simple spheres into the most iconic pizza dough in American culinary history. What you are witnessing is the entrance into the most patient and perhaps most misunderstood phase of Domino's pizza dough production.
Within these walls at this very moment, approximately 42,000 individual dough balls are progressing through their 48-hour fermentation.
Though invisible to the naked eye, remarkable biochemical transformations are already well underway within this resting dough ball as sense. Every 4 hours around the clock, regardless of whether it is noon on a busy Tuesday or 3 in the morning on Christmas Day, the internal temperature of every fermenting dough ball must remain within the range of 37 to 39 degrees Fahrenheit. What you are witnessing in accelerated time is the cumulative effect of billions of individual yeast cells, each performing its merits.
The dough balls in this rack have now completed their full 48-hour fermentation journey. They have been transformed by time.
The transition from 38-degree cold storage to the warmer shipping environment is carefully managed to prevent condensation from forming on the dough ball surfaces.
Each rack now represents 144 large Domino's pizza dough balls, with each dough ball assigned to a specific store.
And thus concludes the 5th chapter in the extraordinary journey of Domino's pizza dough, with the 48-hour cold fermentation now complete.
What you are witnessing is the commencement of the daily Domino's dough distribution ballet. A precisely quarters.
the interior of every Domino's delivery truck maintains a constant temperature of 38 degrees Fahrenheit the entire journey.
This particular truck, designated Route Delta 7, will travel 312 miles today, visiting 23 Domino's stores across central and southern Indiana.
The Domino's delivery drivers who transport our dough across America represent the final critical link in the quality assurance chain.
Acknowledged. Approaching arrival.
The arrival of the dough truck represents a critical moment in the daily rhythm of every Domino's store. The transfer from truck to store cooler is executed with the efficiency that comes from thousands of repetitions as racks roll smoothly across the threshold.
What you are observing within this walk-in cooler is the final phase of the 48-hour cold fermentation process.
With the delivery successfully completed and all 3,456 dough balls now safely stored in the walk-in cooler, multiply the scene you have just witnessed by 647 stores across 8 Midwestern states. And thus concludes the 6th chapter in the extraordinary journey of Domino's pizza dough. Join us for
The dough that traveled 312 miles from the regional manufacturing facility has now rested overnight in this store's walk-in cooler. A relaxed extensibility that will allow the dough to be stretched without tearing. Recognizing this
The transition from 38-degree cold storage to the 72-degree proofing environment represents the final temperature adjustment in the long journey of Domino's dough. Within this resting dough ball, billions of yeast cells that have been maintained in a state of suppressed metabolic activity by the cold fermentation. While the dough completes its final warming period and the rest of the Domino's pizza production system comes to life around it, with each punch of mince. The dough balls have now reached an internal temperature of approximately 62 degrees Fahrenheit and are exhibiting the
The dough balls have now completed every phase of their remarkable journey, from wheat fields in Kansas to this make line in suburban Indianapolis.
What you are about to witness is a technique that Domino's pizza makers have perfected over millions of repetitions, a method of the stretched crust now 14 inches in diameter and approximately 3/8 of an inch thick at its center, with a slightly thicker edge that will develop into the distinctive Domino's crust rim.
And thus concludes the 7th chapter in the extraordinary journey of Domino's pizza dough. With the
pizza that enters this oven at precisely 485 degrees Fahrenheit will emerge exactly 7 minutes later, fundamentally transformed at the molecular level.
At this stage of the baking process, the yeast cells within the dough structure are experiencing their final burst of metabolic activity.
The proprietary Domino's cheese blend, a formulation developed through years of consumer preference testing, is refined to optimize both flavor and melt characteristics.
Alert. What you are witnessing at the molecular level is the Maillard reaction, a complex cascade of chemical interactions between.
The pepperoni slices are now experiencing the thermal transformation that releases their characteristic spicy aromatic oils across the pizza surface. The pizza has now spent 6 minutes in the precisely controlled environment of the Domino's conveyor oven, and the transformation is nearly complete.
7 minutes have elapsed since this assembled pizza entered the oven. What emerges now bears only a superficial resemblance to what entered.
Because the blade must pass through the crust cheese and toppings in a single clean stroke that prevents the cheese from being dragged across the surface. The Domino's pizza box itself represents another example of the company's relentless attention to detail, engineered to maintain pizza temperature throughout the delivery window. What remains is the final and perhaps most critical phase of its journey, the delivery to the customer.
The Domino's Heatwave bag represents a multi-million-dollar investment in delivery quality technology, with each bag incorporating 6.
The delivery driver you are watching is one of more than 100,000 Domino's delivery experts serving customers across the United States and around the world.
This moment, this brief intersection between the 48-hour journey of a Domino's pizza and the daily life of an American.
The Domino's delivery experience has been studied, refined, and optimized through millions of customer interactions.
What this family is about to experience, the opening of that Domino's box, the first glimpse of the perfectly baked pizza within the aroma that fills the kitchen.
This cheese stretch, this visual confirmation of proper melt characteristics and fresh ingredients, is the final.
What this family is experiencing right now, the complex flavor profile of properly fermented Domino's dough, the perfect balance of sauce acidity and cheese richness.
With the delivery confirmed and the customer satisfaction survey already en route to the customer's email inbox, the Domino's system begins preparing for the next order.
Because at Domino's, the dough never stops, and the commitment never wavers, and the pursuit of pizza perfection continues with.
What you have witnessed over the preceding Domino's chapters.
The Kent facility, which opened in 1983 and underwent a major expansion in 2014, produces approximately 1 handlers. The new Boston facility, often called the mothership by Domino's supply chain veterans, represents the template from which all products. From this room, Domino's supply chain specialists monitor every aspect of the national dough production network.
The Domino's logistics network faces unique challenges in every region of the country, from the mountain passes of Colorado, where delivery trucks must navigate snow and ice,
and through sophisticated weather monitoring that allows logistics coordinators to adjust delivery routes around severe weather systems before they impact store operations.
The Southern California market represents perhaps the ultimate test of Domino's supply chain capabilities, with flavors.
The Batavia facility, which opened in 2001 and was expanded in 2018 to meet growing demand throughout.
Collectively, the 27 Domino's supply chain centers produce more than 2 million pounds of pizza dough every single day.
Because at Domino's, the dough never stops, and neither do the people who make it possible.
Behind every dough ball that travels through the Domino's supply chain, and behind every quality control check and temperature verification,
this accumulated knowledge represents the irreplaceable human element.
People ask me how I know when the dough is ready.
Verify what generations of Domino's bakers previously determined.
The science of dough is endlessly fascinating to me because it sits at the intersection of biology, chemistry, and physics.
Maria Gonzalez began her Domino's career on the sanitation crew.
When I first started at Domino's, I did not know anything about pizza dough.
Verifying that the cargo compartment temperature is stable at 38 degrees Fahrenheit.
Because if I let my cargo compartment temperature drift up just a few degrees, that dough might not perform properly.
When I first started on the make line, I was terrible at stretching dough. I would tear the crust or end up with weird oval shapes that nobody would want.
Technology exists to support people, not to replace them.
I have worked in food manufacturing for 40 years.
The transfer of responsibility from one shift to the next represents a critical control point in Domino's continuous production operation.
in an environment where what matters is not where you came from or what you look like, but whether you share the Domino's commitment to quality and consistency. And thus concludes the 11th chapter in the extraordinary journey of Domino's pizza dough, with the human element of dough excellence now revealed. Beyond the mixing bowls and fermentation chambers, there exists at Domino's a final and perhaps most important quality verification
parse. The Domino's sensory specification includes measurable criteria for crust appearance, which must display uniform golden brown.
The Domino's Quality Assurance Laboratory performs more than 200 individual tests every single day, analyzing everything from flour protein content.
The pursuit of perfection at Domino's is not a destination, but a journey. And this room represents the engine of that journey.
The Domino's audit program represents a systematic approach to quality verification that extends far beyond the routine. These objective measurements allow Domino's to establish precise numerical specifications for dough rheology that ensure every batch performs identically. The Domino's supplier quality program ensures that every ingredient entering the production stream has been produced under conditions that meet Domino's exacting standards.
The Domino's training program represents perhaps the most important quality system of all, because while specifications the Domino's preventive maintenance program represents a critical but often overlooked component qualities.
And thus concludes the 12th chapter in the extraordinary journey of Domino's pizza dough. With a comprehensive
Beyond the manufacturing facilities and distribution networks that produce today's Domino's dough, and there exists a dedicated
Dr. Harrington and his colleagues are currently investigating a proprietary flour blend that incorporates a small percentage of ancient grain.
This fermentation chamber represents one of Domino's most powerful research tools, capable of executing precisely. The ultimate test of any Domino's innovation is not laboratory analysis or expert opinion, but rather the judgment of American pizza consumers. The path from laboratory curiosity to commercial reality at Domino's is deliberately challenging, with multiple gates that each...
The transition from laboratory bench to production floor is the most challenging phase of any food innovation. Processes that work perfectly.
The production of experimental dough within an active manufacturing facility requires extraordinary care to prevent any cross-nurseries. Researchers are monitoring subtle differences in fermentation rate, gas retention, and gluten development that will ultimately determine.
The results of the ancient grain experiment will not be known for several days as researchers analyze the data collected during mixing. And thus concludes the 13th chapter in the extraordinary journey of Domino's pizza dough, with the innovation.
What you have witnessed throughout this documentary, the extraordinary journey of Domino's pizza dough from American wheat fields to American doorsteps.
The Milton Keynes facility, which opened in 1993 as Domino's first international supply chain center, operates. The Langley facility, which serves more than 500 Domino's stores across Western Canada, faces some of the most challenging delivery conditions in the global network.
The Brisbane facility, serving more than 700 Domino's stores across Australia and New Zealand, represents dimensions.
The Tokyo facility, located in one of the most densely populated urban environments on Earth, operates in a fraction of the space of deserts. The Domino's Global Quality Council, which meets weekly, brings together quality leaders from every region where Domino's operates. The annual Global Supply Chain Summit represents the culmination of Domino's commitment to worldwide consistency. The transfer of knowledge from established Domino's markets to emerging markets represents a critical function of the global quality organization.
At any given moment of any given day, Domino's dough is being mixed somewhere in the world, because the global Domino's network never sleeps.
And thus concludes the 14th chapter in the extraordinary journey of Domino's pizza dough, with the gleans.
As we return to the wheat fields where every Domino's pizza begins its journey, we can finally appreciate the full.
In the brief span of this time-lapse sequence, we have witnessed a transformation that is nothing short of miraculous, a transformation that
What you are witnessing in this moment, this simple act of lifting a slice of Domino's pizza, is the culmination.
The true legacy of Domino's pizza dough is not found in the sophisticated equipment or the proprietary specifications.
The Domino's story is fundamentally an American story, a story of innovation and entrepreneurship and the relentless pursuit.
This simple sphere of fermented dough preserved for posterity represents more than just the physical foundation of a...
The leaders of Domino's today understand what Tom Monaghan understood 6 years ago, that pizza is ultimately about people.
What Domino's has created over 6 decades of continuous improvement is nothing less than a masterpiece of American.
And so we return to where every Domino's journey ultimately ends, not in a manufacturing facility or a supply.
A story that began in a Kansas wheat field and ended in your kitchen. A story that represents the very best of America.
Every frame in this video has been transformed through a multi-stage editing process. From GIF conceptualization to VO3 generation, human creativity leads every step. This channel is dedicated to original AI craftsmanship and follows all 2026 YouTube monetization rules.